Welcome in, folks. Merrifield Sportsbook Show. The brackets here. We are hours away from brackets locking as we record on Wednesday night. I'm making sure this goes out ASAP once this is done recording, so you great people of the internet have our picks before the tournament starts. Welcome in Matt Merrifield, Jada Coster, Justin Walsh, who is sitting inside the sun, myself, Nick Burt. Matt, how are you doing on this Wednesday evening, tournament eve? We already got a little taste of the action with the first four, which hasn't been great, but hey, it's basketball.
I'm a little concerned that obviously the first four picks don't count, but as somebody who makes picks, I'm 0-3 against the spread so far in the first four. Not a great start. So what does that mean for Miami, Ohio? I have no idea. Goodbye, Jay Walsh. I'm excited. Couldn't be more excited. Nice 4 p.m. tip-off for Michigan State tomorrow, right in the middle of the day. I think they're going to be okay. I feel confident. I think they might even cover. But hey, who knows? Anything can happen. There are a lot of frisky teams out there. But tomorrow's the best day of the year. It doesn't get much better. A lot of great games, starting with that TCU Ohio State game. Let's have some fun. Let's be fun. Let's have some frisky brackets. Let's get weird. That's the motto. Jay, let's get weird. Like Chicago on St. Patty's Day. Let's get weird.
Really weird.
Jada Coster, how are you doing on this tournament eve?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I agree. It is the best. Well, it's the best 2 days on the sports calendar. It's so much basketball. I'm excited for it. I like that it's at the Michigan State's at 3:00 start and not like at 1:00. I do like that. So yeah, gonna be a lot of good basketball and I've been struggling against the spread, so this has not been a great start as well.
Jay Walsh, how are you doing this Wednesday evening as you appear to be in the abyss of Wi-Fi issues? But we're going to try this anyways.
All right. I just switched back over to my Wi-Fi because and it appears this is also not working, but I did not hear your question, Nick Burt. Go ahead and ask one more time.
There was no question except how are you doing and that you look to have Wi-Fi issues.
Yes, we are trying our best over here currently. Ready for some college basketball. As said previously, if you're somebody who follows the college basketball.
Wow.
Incredible. Thank you, Bruce Pearl.
Hey, as long as we follow college basketball, that is all that matters. Just like Jay Walsh said, who looks to be unfrozen now. I don't know if you had it, and he's frozen.
And he's gone.
Fun times. Fun times. Folks, I just say let's get into it. Jay Walsh will join us at some point. Look at this beautiful thing. That, folks, is a bracket. It is so beautiful. It's got so many messes around it, so many trap cards. I can't wait to get into it. We're going to have some fun here as we just dive straight in to this beautiful East Regional with your number 1 overall seed, Duke Blue Devils. Your 2 seed in this region is the UConn Huskies. Your 3 is the Michigan State Spartans. 4 is Kansas, and rounding out your top 5 seeds. Matt, I'm doing this right now and realizing I did not upload the fraud con, so we will do that at the end of the show. Let's just talk about the East, though. Matt, give us your thoughts here on this East Regional.
I'm sure if you've been following college basketball the last 4 days, what hasn't already been said, just the greatness and the legends that are in this bracket in terms of coaching history. When you think of the best 10 best college basketball coaches of all time. I mean, John Shire's not there yet, of course. You still, Coach K is on there for Duke. But the rest, Bill Self, Rick Pitino, Tom Izzo, three of the, I would argue, 10 best basketball coaches of all time, college basketball coaches of all time. Dan Hurley, well on his way if he continues to win championships and not chest bump refs. John Shire, I think, well on his way as well. Of course, I don't know if it was you that sent me the stat, Nick, or who did, of the total. I think I just saw this myself. Shout out Tim Marshall from Impact, the men's basketball beat writer. Total career wins among all coaches in each region. The East is 1,200 wins, I believe, ahead of the next region. And then I think it's the West and the East that are tied, like essentially tied by like 12 wins. And then the South is slightly behind even then. But just the amount of legends that are in this region going through it. Nick, we've talked about the Lizard people, and they're licking their chops at this. I mean, 5 o'clock Sunday, March 29th, CBS, Iron Eagle, Bill Raftery, must-see TV. It's going to be probably Duke and somebody. But don't know if it's not Duke, it's going to be Kansas. And somehow if it's not Kansas, it'll be St. John's. If there's 3 options on the top half, and on the bottom half, it's Michigan State, it's UConn, or maybe UCLA. Maybe. And God, oh no, if St. John's, UCLA is their worst outcome, guess what? They still fall up into a face full of money. So, I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun. I think the trap in this region is St. John's. People, the Big East, and I'll get to it in FraudCon at the end of the show. I am not very high in the Big East. In fact, I'm very low on the Big East. And St. John's didn't play well in the non-con. I don't think their style translates that well to the tournament, and UNI is dangerous. The Missouri Valley is always dangerous. So give me UNI to upset in the 12-5, especially St. John's have to go across country. And then I think it'll be Michigan State Duke on Sunday because I think Michigan. Oh, there we go. Here's the fraud. Oh,
I was just trying to get it uploaded.
We'll
get into it later.
Oh, flashing the people, the FraudCon. Bottom half of the region. I think Duke, even with the injury concerns, gets themselves to the Elite Eight. I know they're starting to get slowly healthier. Like I believe Gongba will be back. If not by the end of this weekend, he'll be back for the second weekend. But Duke looked tired in the ACC championship. They just looked, and I know they found a way to win, but they don't look like they have the same legs, especially if they're not fully healthy. Kansas has all the talent in the world. Just can they put it together for 4 games? Bottom half, I think Michigan State's the best team on the bottom half. I do think they're better than UConn. They have the better guard play. Solo ball has not been very good down the stretch. Jeremy Fierce has been a top 5, maybe top 3 guard in the country. Of course, USF is scary. I expect them to win now with the injury to Louisville's guard. I forget what his name is, blanking off the top of my head. I mean, there's so many different ways you can go in this region. It's going to be a lot of fun. Like all I know is the Lizard people are going to be happy. And if you don't have one of the 5 teams I named off at the top, you're wrong. I'm just telling you right now that there is not going. I don't see any situation where there's a Cinderella coming out of this region. And Michigan State wins the region. Final answer.
Jay, what are your thoughts here on this East Regional? Obviously, like Matt said, just stacked with coaching talent, stacked with basketball talent. It really should be probably the best regional out of the 4.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you get Patino, you got Izzo, I mean Hurley, I mean Shire. I mean, it is a loaded field with coaches. I mean, I guess one team I guess to keep an eye out on. I mean, St. John's could be scary. Obviously, the Big East hasn't been great this year. USF, like Matt says, is going to be kind of dangerous, especially with Michael Brown out. USF's they looked very good in their conference tournament. I mean, so watch out for them. I feel like that's a very popular upset pick. Honestly, this probably won't happen, but Ohio State's going to give Duke a game. I'm picking Ohio State to beat TCU. I mean, Bruce Thornton's been carrying that team. You saw what he did against Michigan. He dropped like 27. Ohio State could be sneaky. I think they're just a frisky team, kind of playing well here down the stretch. But yeah, I mean, I kind of agree that Michigan State, I think, just matches up well with UConn. Better guard play. I expect Michigan State to get into the Elite Eight in this region, and then I think anything can happen with Caleb Foster being out for Duke. yeah, I mean, it's a loaded, stacked region, and if Darren Peterson's able to play, which who knows? I mean, if he's able to play, then watch out for Kansas because they looked really good when he was on the floor. But yeah, it's a fun region. UCLA, UCF will be a really good game. Praying UCF wins because I just can't stand Mick Cronin. But yeah, absolutely loaded field. So
Jay Walsh, hopefully you are back at this point with your, Wi-Fi issues as I see you're joining again, so you're not going to hear any of this. Jay Walsh, welcome. Your thoughts here on the East Regional.
Yeah, I kind of agree with a lot of what's been said so far. I have this as a very kind of chalky region. It's been kind of, as we've said, it's been well noted, the very, very top heavy power teams in this region, obviously the great coaches. I do have a couple games that I think are possible upsets. A couple of them being in the first round, one of them being a potential second round. The first round, really the only two major upset potentials I see. I'm glad that Matt brought up the UNI over St. John's. I see that as a definitive possibility as well. Just as like Matt kind of alluded to, I also have not been a huge believer in the Big East this year. And plus that UNI team is very good. So I think that's a definite possibility. I also see, obviously, South Florida over Louisville. I don't know that anyone really classifies that as a huge upset, but in terms of the seed line, 11-6 is always worth talking about. The one that I think people should keep an eye on, especially, I mean, obviously, if it comes to fruition in that second round matchup, is TCU playing Duke in that second round matchup. Duke obviously is a great team, but TCU has had some very close games against really good teams this year and got a couple nice victories. So I think that's a team that could give Duke a little bit of a scare in the second round. But yeah, other than that, those are really the three major kind of upsets I see. Aside from that, I think this is going to be a very chalky bracket where I think we see one of the top three teams. I think Kansas is well talented enough to make it out of this region, but I don't necessarily think that they're going to be able to put 3 to 4 good games together against that level of competition. So realistically, I don't see anyone outside of the top 3 seeds in this region making it out.
The one thing I want to add before Nick jumps back in is, Jay Walsh, I agree with you on TCU. I wanted to pick them, but I can't. Just the Lizard people get what they want, and they don't want TCU in that game. Even though it was 3 years ago, they gave Arizona and that 1-9 game a really good matchup. I could see a similar scenario playing out here. This is going to lead me into when Nick gets going. Nick, I'm sorry. Furman is dangerous. I'm telling you right now. I wish they should be higher than a 15 seed, and I wish they were, because I don't see Dan Hurley losing to Furman. But Furman is actually pretty damn good. Now, I think people overplay the injuries they've had a little bit too much, because early in the year they were healthy, and they still lost some of their early non-conference games. But they are good. They are frisky. It's Furman. They've done it before. Keep an eye out on the Paladins. Go ahead, Nick.
I'm just sitting here looking at this beautiful spreadsheets. I love spreadsheets. You can't even see that because I'm in like a box that's 2 inches big. I'm going to read off some things for you here, Matt. High Point, 97-71. Troy, 64-61. Northern Iowa, 70-64. And Illinois State, 72-65. Those are all games Furman lost in the non-con this year. Some of the fantastic teams they beat in the non-con were Columbia International, Ohio Christian, Bob Jones, Queens, and I'll give you Richmond.
Sounds
Furman
like
isn't good.
Hey,
Sounds like
Queens
they're
is a
due.
tournament team.
That's why I did add them. I did add them because they are a tournament team, but Furman isn't good. So let's just cool it on that right now, because you're just wrong. The I do agree that this feels like it's going to be a chalky bracket, but it always feels like when it feels like a chalky bracket, that's when it really does get crazy. And I really do believe everybody is looking, at least I've heard it many times, and it's possibly because of my affiliations. I have heard March 27th in Washington, D.C. It's only going to be one matchup in the early game because Duke's going to have the late game. Guys, I truly do not believe we are getting that game. One of them is losing along the way. I don't know which one. I'll be honest, I'm scared of UCLA, but the fact that they have to travel 3,000 miles, Mick Cronin's going to complain about tip times and travel, and he's going to say, are you raising your voice at me when they lose to UCF by 15? That does worry me. And honestly, Louisville does worry me too on the other side. I know the injuries they've picked up, but Louisville loves shooting the three ball. They're hitting on their day. Nobody's beating them. It's just as simple as that. So those feel like two traps right there to potentially stop a generational Sweet 16 game for the Merrifield Sportsbook Show. But overall, I'm just going straight chalk here. It's going to be 1 versus 2 in the Elite Eight with the 2 seed advancing to the Final Four. Real shocker there. Hey, what can I say? Do we have any final thoughts on the East Regional?
I do, and I'm glad you brought up UCLA because I do think that they are a potential candidate to go on a little bit of a run just because, they seem to be kind of clicking at the right time. But if that second round matchup does happen, UConn-UCLA, we are going to see an all-timer post-game press conference from whichever one of those coaches loses. And I personally cannot wait for it to happen.
I pray for whoever the refs are on that game. That is going to be – they might as well just right after tip give text to both Hurley and Cronin.
Yeah, the refereeing crew for this bottom half of the region, that potential matchup between Mick Cronin and Dan Hurley, and then potentially the winner of that game, then playing Tom Izzo, that refereeing crew is going to have therapy after those 2 games back to back if that does happen.
Correct. I will be honest though, the part that does help me hope that UCLA doesn't make it through is the fact that they are absolutely awful in the Eastern time zone. Games in Philly, that helps, but it is what it is. Any other final thoughts here on the East region before we move on?
USF is a different story should they beat Louisville tomorrow. But for those that want to know, Louisville this year against teams that are 6 seed or better in the tournament, they're 0-6. They have a few decent wins. I know they beat Miami in the conference tournament, or they beat Miami in the regular season, or was it the conference tournament? Yeah, they beat them in the last game of the regular season. They beat NC State, who was the last team in, but they lost to Virginia every time they saw them. They lost to Tennessee. They did beat Kentucky at home. I don't know. I feel like Louisville is what they are, as a lot of 6 and 7 seeds are this year, especially this season specifically. There's a couple I think that are slightly underseeded, but for the most part, I feel like Louisville is what they are, and I'm more concerned about, just a frisky 11 seed at large mid-major team coming in. I know at UCF won their conference, but they very easily could have been an at-large bid, as we discussed multiple times. But we'll have to wait and see. I feel like it's a similar situation to what we saw last year in Cleveland, where it's solid, Power 5 team in Marquette or frisky New Mexico coming in, and people were worried about New Mexico. And New Mexico played really fast last year too, a similar style. Other than they don't shoot as many threes as South Florida. Michigan State handled that game. All things considered, they won, which is all that matters, and that they felt like they were in control most of the game. So we'll have to wait and see. But that's enough for the East. Let's move on.
Before we move on, shout out Brian Hodgson. Turned down a absolutely terrible job on the market yesterday. Very good for him. I can't wait for him to be at Providence because it's very clear that's where he's going. I will welcome him with open arms to the Big East once his tournament run is done. Let's take a look at the West. You have Arizona, your 1 seed here. They were the second overall 1 seed. Purdue off their Big Ten championship as a 2 seed. Your 3 seed is Gonzaga. Your 4 seed is a red hot Arkansas team. And your 5 seed is going to be Wisconsin. Jada Coster, I'll go to you first here. What are your thoughts here on this West region? And what do you see coming out of this?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's Arizona's to lose. They're one of the 2 favorites to cut down the nets. I fully expect Arizona to get through this region. I mean, Gonzaga is always going to be a pick to go to the Sweet 16 and then lose in the Sweet 16. So I have a lot of confidence there. Miami, Mizzou, obviously it's a pretty big toss up. Miami's a 1.5 point favorite as of right now. I'd probably lean Miami, to be honest with you. I mean, I haven't really watched a ton of them. A lot of the ACC is just dog crap, but they got Malik Renew from Indiana. Trey Donaldson from Michigan last year. I mean, they could shoot the ball. They got size with Renew. I just feel like they match up really well against Mizzou, so I'd probably lean Miami there. Obviously a very kind of a pick 'em spot, but I mean, Wisconsin's always a pick to get red hot, but I don't trust Greg Gard in the tournament. I really don't. Like, they're a really frisky, hot team, but I feel like Arkansas can get past them. Darius Acuff's gonna be a lot of fun to watch. And obviously, you got the Villanova, Utah State. Yeah, I probably lean Utah State in this spot. They're really good with MJ Collins Jr. and Mason Belslaf. I mean, it's just the Big East factor. Villanova hasn't really played anybody. The Big East just isn't very good. So I probably lean the Mountain West and Utah State in that spot. But yeah, I mean, Arizona's the team to beat in the spot. BYU Texas going to be a really interesting matchup. We'll see if Texas can carry the momentum from last night's thriller against NC State. But I mean, I expect AJ DeManza to do what he does. I expect BYU to take care of business against a kind of a mediocre Texas team. So yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a lot of fun. But Purdue interests me as well. I haven't got to them yet, but I mean, they're getting hot, but also they do have a lot of flaws though. I mean, like they didn't really play that well in February. Now they beat Michigan in the Big Ten tournament, but they still have a lot of flaws on me. Like it just depends on if Lawyer can shoot it well and if Clough, which kind of Oscar Clough shows up, and if their bench can produce with Omar Meyer. But Braden Smith, he's gonna put up 10 assists for them, 9-10 assists. I mean, it's interesting for Purdue, but I like Arizona. They're just a way better team in this region, so by a landslide, I should say.
That is very interesting there to see your perspective there, Jay. Jay Walsh, I'll go to you next. What are your thoughts here on the West region?
This is a really interesting region to me because there are a number of teams that I'm actually really bummed out that they're grouped together, because there are a couple teams in here that I kind of picked as sneaky potential Final Four teams. I'm going to start off with, obviously, I mean, this isn't a sneaky one. I've made it very clear all year. I think Arizona might be the best team in the country. So realistically, I think they're going to come out of this region. But there are a lot of really good teams here. Wisconsin, I think Wisconsin was a team that I picked, that I was going to pick to win a couple games, get to the Sweet 16, and then kind of bow out from there. Their biggest issue to me is they really, I mean, obviously, I saw they have Nolan Winter, who's coming back and is expected to play. That's going to be a big boost for them. But realistically, most of the time, they're a two-man team. And when Nick Boyd and John Blackwell are playing well, they can beat just about anybody. We saw that with obviously dominant wins over Michigan State. They beat Michigan earlier in the year. They've got a couple very good wins on the schedule. But when either of those two guys aren't on, they can lose to just about anybody. So that they were kind of a weird team. I am really, really upset that Arkansas is in this, not only in this region, but in the same kind of pod with Arizona. I was really, really high on Arkansas. I really wanted to take them as a potential dark horse, potential Final Four team. I don't know if I can pick them beating Arizona in that potential Sweet 16 matchup. When we look down at the lower end of this region, obviously Purdue is coming in hot. They seem to be playing their best basketball right now. I'm not a huge believer in Gonzaga this year. I think BYU actually makes it to that Sweet 16 matchup with Purdue. I think that could go either way because I think AJ Devonta is a phenomenal player, and he could be that guy to just single-handedly will the Cougars over Purdue. But realistically, I think the most likely outcome here is a 1-2 matchup, and I don't see Arizona losing that game. So I'm going to go with Arizona, but I do think that there are going to be some very good games in this region.
Matt, I'll go to you next before I go on my little tangent here. What are your thoughts here on the West region?
Well, my national champion is coming out of this region, and it's the Arizona Wildcats. People love to bring up the history of different metrics that apply for why, teams that win at top 50 in this, top 100 in that. First off, I'm pretty sure most of those metrics most people use, they don't take into account. They look at KenPom right now from 2024. If you go into KenPom right now, it tells you the end of the season after the tournament's over, where they ranked. Turns out when teams go on runs at the end of the tournament, they finish higher in the KenPom ranking. So it's important to look at it pre-tournament. So starting on Selection Sunday. In the last 13 years, 22 teams have been top 11 in offense, top 30 in defense, have a top 50 strength of schedule, and play at a tempo between 65 and 70 possessions per game. That number about tempo is important. It matters more than people realize. A lot of good teams have not been in that threshold, and there's a reason why they play themselves out of games. Of those 22 teams, 7 have won a national title. Now, in 3 of the 13 years, no team qualified into the 4 criteria I just mentioned, but in 7 of the 10, in 10 of the 13 years, there was a team. 7 of those 10 years, an eligible team won a national title. And the teams that won it the other years, one was UVA, where they played aggressively slow, like historically slow basketball. They were just that good in 2019. And one of the other years was UConn, was played at a 70.1 pace before the tournament started. So you got to be really close to that 70 line if you're just over. 3 teams this year meet the criteria: Illinois, Duke, and Arizona. I like Arizona. Duke, I was going to be my national championship pick until Caleb Foster went down. My one gripe with Arizona is that they have blown it before, but this team is different because their tempo is finally within under 70. They finally have slowed the fuck down when they need to. They have the depth. They've lost 2 games this year. They lost back-to-back games in the middle of February, and they barely lost those 2 games against 2 good basketball teams. I know they lost to Texas Tech the second time in overtime. I can't remember who they lost in the first game. Was it Iowa State? If anybody knows off the top of their head, they don't. It's not the end of the world. I think it was either Kansas or Iowa State. I can't remember.
It was Kansas.
Kansas.
They lost at Allen Fieldhouse by like 4. So I really like this Arizona team. I think they get it done this year. Also, of the 22 teams that have met the criteria, 19 of the 22 have made the Sweet 16. So Illinois, Duke, Arizona, you probably should have making the second weekend, which I'm pretty sure we all do. Actually, I don't. Spoiler alert, but we'll get to that later. Moving on down, I think Utah State is a very strong mid-major. They got disrespected because they're from the Mountain West, and Villanova is a corpse. You want to talk about bad Big East basketball? I can't believe Villanova's in the fucking tournament. Just go back and watch their game against Michigan back in December. I refuse to believe they're an 8 seed. They're bad, Nick. Do they even like? They're not good. Anyways, moving on down. I know everybody's in love with Wisconsin. I can see it, but I fell in love with this team last year in the Big Ten tournament, and they were better last year with John Tonji. Greg Gard ain't getting out the first weekend, and I think High Point's going to win that first game. Only the issue is that they play similar styles, and usually when 2 teams play similar styles, the power conference team is going to win just because they have better athletes. I don't think Wisconsin brings their shooting game. Completely feel-based. We're going High Point. Arkansas wins. Darius Acuff best guard in the country, maybe the best player in the country in the last 4 weeks. Give me the Rebecks. Woo Pig, 40 minutes of hell, Jay. Going on down, BYU will win. Will beat Texas. Texas looked like shit. Somehow NC State was worse yesterday. AJ DeManza, he'll win at least a game in the tournament. Gonzaga, go Dogs. And then Purdue will play Miami. I don't care. That game's in St. Louis. Missouri's also a bad basketball team. Intriguing matchup, BYU Gonzaga. Unfortunately, as much as I love DeBanza, BYU, especially without Richie Saunders, they don't beat, even when he was on the team, they don't beat teams that are better than them. They once again, they are what they are as a 6th seed. Could they beat Gonzaga on an off day? Maybe. But I think Gonzaga has gone under the radar this year. I know I was on them last year and they lost a heartbreaker to Houston in the second round. I think this team can ride it all the way to the Elite Eight. I think they're better than Purdue. Gonzaga, I think, gets the Elite Eight for what would be an awesome matchup in San Jose against Arizona on that Sunday. My issue with Arkansas playing Arizona is that Arizona's a better team, and Arkansas had to play until Sunday last weekend. They're flying across the country to Portland to play tomorrow. They play Saturday. And then, if I'm not mistaken, I would assume they would not fly home. I would assume they would stay on the West Coast all week. But that's a tough travel schedule to keep them out on the West Coast. And we all know the NCAA travel accommodations are not the greatest, to say the least. Shout out UMBC being stuck in an airport for 30 hours. So I just can't justify them going out to the West Coast and beating Arizona the first game of the weekend. So give me Arizona out of this region, but I really like some of the, I like a lot of the talent in this region, like Jay Walsh talked about. Acuff, the guards for Wisconsin are fun, but can they put it together and get to the second weekend? Keep in mind, Greg Gard has not made a Sweet 16 since 2017. He is a fraud. And I mean, when AJ DeBanza is on your TV screen, you have to be in front of it. You have to. Just make sure you are, especially when they play Gonzaga in the second round. That's going to be a fun matchup to watch, although I think the Zags win it. That's all I got. Go Cats.
Matt, you just brought up something that makes my point even better.
I brought up a lot. So which point did I bring up?
The Greg Gard one, that he hasn't, it's been a while.
It's been 9 years.
Folks, Arizona hasn't made an Elite Eight since 2015.
Yeah, and they slowed the fuck down.
Yeah, and you know what? It's not happening again this year. I am not buying into this propaganda once again. I am tired of falling in the same trap every year. Arizona does this all the time. Oh, this year, Arizona's different. No, they never are. They are never different. They are the same team that always come out and lose to somebody they either shouldn't or they end up getting blown out in the end. It's not happening. It is not happening. Now, I'm not saying they're losing in the first round to LIU. Fins up. Shout out LIU. But they're not making the Elite Eight. Why they aren't making the Elite Eight? Well, I wish I could throw out some propaganda that you guys better learn the name. Isaac Big Fish Johnson right now, the 7-footer from the University of Hawaii. But sadly, they're not winning that game. And Woo Pig is going to the Elite Eight. I got it. They made Arkansas right now reminds me of 2013 UConn. This is a underseeded team right now. Think the bracket can break their way. They're going to go on a run here.
They have like 7 healthy players.
I don't care.
Not even good players. They just have like 7 guys left.
Again, I don't care. They're hot. They're on a run. Who knows? Maybe I'm wrong here, and Mr. Big Fish himself helps Hawaii to one of the greatest victories in their program's history. Maybe I'm wrong, and I would love that day. But Arkansas is going to the Final Four, folks. Purdue is losing in the second round. They're going to lose to Miami or Missouri. I don't like this Purdue team. BYU is probably making a run to the Elite Eight. I don't know why. I don't trust Gonzaga either. The West region is my region of frauds, and it might be fitting that the West Regional is at the Shark Tank because the Sharks might be frauds, Matt. I'm sorry. But
That was uncalled for. That's a technical foul.
hey, it is what it is. Woo pig, Final Four.
My final thought.
Okay.
Arizona. Let's just throwing out the tempo number and how important it matters. So I'm just going to based off of my years of college, the last 4 years. Freshman year, they lost to, I forget what game they lost to. That was the year they had Benedict Mathurin. They had a tempo of 72.5 early exit, 72.1 when they played Princeton. We know how that went in the 215 game. They were over 72 in 2024. I don't remember how that year ended, but I don't think it ended very well. It didn't end very well. It didn't make the Elite Eight. Last year, they were a 4 seed. They slowed down to 70.5, I believe was the number I just saw. And they made it to the Sweet 16, lost a tough one to a very good Duke team, obviously. One of the most talented teams that we've seen in college basketball. They have slowed down yet again. This is the year, Nick. They are going to get it done. And my rebuttal just for BYU is that, and we've seen this in years past, not even just with the player like DeBansa, of teams when they rely heavily on an NBA superstar prospect. Like I think back to remember Alabama with Colin Sexton. I don't know why that year stands out to me. I think it's just because I fell in love with Bama that year, thinking they'd beat Villanova, and they didn't. I believe those year Villanova won it all. I believe that was 2017 or 2018. I believe that was 2018 when he was in college. Those types of guys cannot do it by themselves when they play really good basketball teams. I know Gonzaga's fraudulent, but somebody's got to win this region, Nick. I know that's your thought process for Arkansas, but I don't know if they can keep shooting the lights out. Fun fact, Mike Merrifield has Hawaii beating Arkansas, Nick.
Wow.
He believes in the Warriors. He believes in the Rainbow Warriors. He thinks Arkansas is fraudulent. He thinks they're FraudCon 1, and he thinks they're going to go ice cold tomorrow night. So we'll see. We'll see who's on the right side of history, I guess.
I mean, I'd love to be on the right side of history with Hawaii. I just don't see it happening. I love big fish, 7-footer, but I don't see it. Do we have any other final thoughts here on the West Regional? Gonna take that as a no. So we're gonna move on here. Midwest Regional, in which will end up being played in good old Chicago, Illinois. Won't be played at the best arena in Chicago, though. Will not be played at Wintrust. Real shame there. Folks, I can already tell you. It's going to get freaky in this regional. This is a mess of just, I don't even know what to say. Jay Walsh, please take me away.
This is an absolute joke of a region, in my opinion. There are 2, maybe 3, not terrible, or not terrible, but there are 2, maybe 3 good teams in this entire region. One of them is a great team, and it's really unfortunate, but they have a free pass in my mind to the Elite Eight because nobody in that top half is beating Michigan. I don't care who you pick to win the rest of those games. Nobody's beating Michigan there. When you look at the bottom half of this region, obviously, I mean, as we record here on Wednesday night, I currently have the SMU Miami Ohio game on the TV right now. Miami Ohio is currently up 23-16. Go Red Hawks, but don't see them going on a run here. Iowa State, I think, is a good team, but I don't see them being able to stand up to Michigan like that. I think Virginia, I don't know what to think of Virginia because, as we have mentioned a couple times this year, this is not your father's Virginia team. This is not Tony Bennett Virginia that's going to win a game 51-47. They're going to try to outscore you. And I mean, they've done it a lot this year, but we also have seen that the ACC is not very good this year. So, yeah, I really want to pick somebody in this region to beat Michigan. I just don't see it happening. I think if Texas Tech had JT Toppin, I think that would potentially be my pick because I think that was a very, very good Texas Tech team. As we saw, they played a lot of very close games with those top Big 12 teams early on in the season. But with JT Toppin going down, and obviously, I mean, Christian Anderson is expected to play, but definitely not 100% healthy right now. That team, I think their ceiling is seriously capped. I think they could even potentially go out round 1 to Akron. When we look at Alabama Hofstra, I'm not a believer in Alabama basketball. Haven't been all year, haven't been for several years now. Not that I don't think Nate Oates is a good coach. It's just I don't think that their style of play really suits the tournament. And so I think they'll beat Hofstra, but I don't see them going much further than that. Not really a whole lot else to say here. I don't really believe in anybody in this bracket except Michigan. I'd love to be wrong, but I think at the end of the day, Michigan's going to the Final Four here.
Matt, I'll go to you next here.
I was hoping you'd come to me.
Do you
last.
want to do it or do you want me to do it?
Do what?
The propaganda that I'm going to spew out here about a potential second round game.
I'm not quite sure what you're referring to, so I guess I'll let you get to it, unless it's at the top of the region.
Oh, it's at the top of the region.
Oh, good Lord. Oh God. I'll go. Let me get to. Actually, you go because I have fun in Frisky. Even after you get done with the Billikens, I have more fun and friskiness coming down the pipe in this region. Just you wait, Jay Walsh.
Can I just preface this by saying St. Louis is not fucking beating Michigan? I know that's where we're going.
You're allowed to have an opinion. You're allowed to have an opinion, even if it's the wrong one. Go ahead.
Folks, 2 years ago, Josh Schertz and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar himself, Robbie Avila, were robbed of a bid into the tournament at Indiana State. They went on, they lost the NIT, but Josh Schertz then went to St. Louis, took a job, a team that is very much should be one of the top teams in the A10. And he has brought them back to greatness. Folks, this is the best team St. Louis has had in decades. You look at Robbie Avila, who is apparently only a junior. I just learned that. But I thought he was.
I also learned that like an hour ago, and I did not believe it.
I thought he was like a 7th-year senior, just with how long it feels like he's been around. You got Deion Brown, Trey Green, Brady Dunlap, great three-point shooter. Folks, Dusty May is going to be terrified on the 21st of March when in Buffalo, New York, the St. Louis Billikens have this game within 5 with 3 minutes to go, and St. Louis is on a 10-0 run. Josh Schertz is ready for this, folks. And if anything has been proven, Michigan may be fraudulent. St. Louis is not a team I'd want to be facing in the second round. On few days rest after playing Howard, I wouldn't want to be playing St. Louis. Folks, the Billikens are alive. They are well. And given I just went on this rant, they're going to lose to Georgia just like George Mason lost to St. Bonaventure. So, Matt Merrifield, take this away.
Are you okay? Well, wow, I don't know how to back that up. First off, Michigan Howard, I have to apologize to both Howard and Prairie View and all the HBCUs for slandering your name for the past week and a half. I apologize. That's on me. You guys still are playing a different brand of basketball, but it has worked in Dayton, I guess.
If it makes you feel any better, Howard damn near they tried their best to blow that game against UMBC. I don't know if you watched it.
Yeah, I did watch that. And if it wasn't for travel issues, UMBC would have won that basketball game. I am fully convinced. The Lizard people wanted the HBCUs to go 2-0 in Dayton. Anyways, All I'm hoping is that it was God's divine intervention and somehow the Bison pull off an upset tomorrow night in Philly. It's not going to happen. But anyways, Michigan's going to win their first game. Georgia's not beating St. Louis. St. Louis might drop 110 tomorrow night. Like, Georgia does not play any defense. And the mid to bad SEC teams are not any good. Like, I really pissed off they were a 10-bid league because there's some bad basketball teams. Missouri's a bad basketball team. Georgia's fun offensively, but defensively, they can't stop a cold. The only thing that concerns me about St. Louis in this tournament and their run is the overinflated basketballs. That's the only thing that stands in our way of greatness, Nick, is overinflated basketballs and triple rims that'll be installed at the KeyBank Arena, where the fuck it's called in Buffalo. That arena stinks. Absolutely stinks. Terrible. Can't believe they get to host something like this. Moving on down the bracket, we'll get back to them. I know Akron's a super fun pick for people. Like, I believe it's the most picked 12-5. Texas Tech's winning that game. Like, I know I'm about to go about how much I love Miami, Ohio. The MAC does suck. Like, truthfully, the MAC is not very good. And Akron got their clocks cleaned last year when they made the tournament. I don't know if it'll get blown out again, but Texas Tech's winning that game. Even without JT Toppin, I don't see them having any issues. They're well coached. They'll get it done. Hofstra. We all know how much I hate Alabama. NATO, speaking of tempo, NATO somehow finds a way to play faster and faster every single year. Give me the pride, baby. They can light it up. Their Hofstra is bigger down low than Alabama. I can't believe I'm saying that. They have more size in the paint than Alabama does, especially with Bediako being ineligible. I like the pride here. They can, if they rebound well, which they do, they have the size advantage tomorrow down low. Give me the Hofstra pride to pull off an upset out of the CAA. Tennessee will beat Miami, Ohio, unfortunately. I don't know if I went back and forth, but I do think Tennessee beats Miami, Ohio tomorrow or on Saturday or Friday. Rick Barnes. This is a classic Rick Barnes team. Under the radar. They're going to win a game. After that, who the hell knows? Virginia is fine. Iowa State will beat Tennessee State. Then there's the Broncos. I love this Santa Clara team. I'm in love with the Broncos. They're long. They can shoot. The offense is on fire right now. They were competitive against a very good Gonzaga team last weekend. And Mark Pope is a fucking train wreck. The whole situation with the Wildcats is a mess. Give me Santa Clara. This is a spot. This is a Santa Clara spot. I don't love that it's in St. Louis, but it's not the end of the world. It's not a deal breaker for me. Give me Santa Clara to move on. And then going back to Iowa State, they do this every single year. They drop the world's biggest stinker, and Santa Clara has the length to force it. Santa Clara to the second weekend, baby. To the Sweet 16, go the Broncos. Virginia, they'll beat Tennessee because Tennessee is terrible and isn't very good, but they're just there. So Virginia will play Santa Clara. Virginia will beat Santa Clara, unfortunately. I cannot justifiably put Santa Clara in the Elite Eight because St. Louis is beating the Wolverines. Michigan is a different team without LJ Kaysen. Jay Walsh, they are a different team without LJ Kaysen. They have played, 5 games since that matchup against Illinois. They haven't won a single one by 10 or more. They have played I think all of them have been decided, other than the Michigan State game was the biggest blowout they had. And they had to shoot 45% from 3 in that game. I don't think the shooting is going to translate. Yaxel Landenborg, I don't buy as a shooter. I know he had to hit 5 threes against Michigan State, had a career game from deep to beat the Spartans. This Michigan team, I don't see it. I don't buy into it. Adai Mara got dominated by Trey Kaufman-Renn in the post. It looked like Mara had never played defense down low. The St. Louis team, they catch fire from outside. It is all over. The other thing is that Michigan's not going to slow the game down. They love playing. They play too fast. They love playing that high-speed tempo, and St. Louis will play right with them. And St. Louis has the shooting, and they're frisky, and they're fun. Give me the Billikens, 28-5, coming out of the A10, baby. They're Loyola. I can feel it. This is Loyola part 2, baby. Here we go. And similarly, Santa Clara at the bottom is the same as Nevada a couple of years ago in that same region in 2018. Just absolute clusterfuck. You have 3 regions that are all put together, buttoned up, and then there's the Midwest down in the bottom right, and you got St. Louis and Santa Clara in Chicago, in the house that Ariana built, playing for a spot in the Final Four. Now, Virginia will beat Santa Clara, even though on Monday morning, when I filled out my original bracket, I did have Santa Clara playing St. Louis for a spot in the Final Four. And as funny as that would be, I physically cannot do that. I could not bring myself to do that. So we're taking Virginia. But in the Final Four, St. Louis is going to the Final Four. And my reasoning is the last, 3 Final Fours for sure that have been in Indy. What 5?
5.
It's the last 5 that follow this trend, Nick.
I believe so.
Final Fours in Indy have been nuclear bomb, nuclear bomb, nuclear bomb, coughing baby. In terms of historical reference, 2015, you had Duke, Michigan State, Kentucky, and then I know Wisconsin was the 1 seed, but Wisconsin is a coughing baby historically in basketball. UCLA, Gonzaga, Baylor, and who even was
Houston.
in Houston. 2010, Michigan State, Duke. What was it? West Virginia.
Yep.
And then Butler out of nowhere. We're feeling it. We're frisky. It's fun. Give me the Billikens to the Final Four.
You didn't even feel like mentioning 2006 with George Mason making a run?
There you go. George Mason, A10. Loyola. I just mentioned how St. Louis is Loyola. I know Loyola didn't come out of the A10 that year when they went to the Final Four, but they're in the A10 now. And shout out Drew Valentine, future Spartan. Didn't think Nick had no idea that was coming in this episode, but here it is. Drew Valentine being talked about in March Madness.
Hey, he got an extension.
The lizard people want it.
Why do you get an extension? What the hell?
Because
what are they doing over
waiting.
there?
They're waiting for Tom Izzo to retire, Jay.
It doesn't matter.
Jay, he's like Patrick Ewing. He just needs 1 more year.
Loyola Chicago can keep waiting because Tom Izzo's replacement is in Illinois, but he's now the coach in Northern Illinois.
Never forget in 2021 when the Michigan State Spartans had a closer game with Loyola Chicago in the Bahamas than they did with Dan Hurley's UConn team. Dan Hurley off of the continental United States. Basically, Kevin Ollie.
All right. I'm going to get into my picks real quick. I don't really know how to top this. I'm going to be the party pooper of this region. Michigan's winning this region. This region is dog shit. This region is dog shit.
It is
Dog
terrible.
shit.
That's why you need to have fun. Michigan's not winning this region. Even if Iowa State figures it out, Michigan's not winning this region. Somebody else.
I was tempted to take Rick Barnes, but Tennessee's terrible.
How do you get to Rick Barnes?
Rick Barnes has been better. Rick Barnes has been better in the tournament.
Region before Rick Barnes wins the fucking region.
Rick Barnes, they've been
Hey,
better.
I'm not gonna lie. That is not the direction I thought you were gonna go from there.
No, but a couple of things. I mean, Virginia definitely has a shot. I know that the ACC is kind of dog shit, but they play high tempo basketball. They can really shoot it. Yeah, I mean Virginia. I got Virginia going to the Elite Eight and then losing to Michigan. I agree. Matt Hofstra's got a real shot here. Texas Tech's going to beat the brakes off of Akron. Texas Tech's still a really good team without JT Toppin. They went into Hilton Coliseum and beat the brakes off of Iowa State without Toppin. So I have a lot of confidence in them to get past Akron there. I do have St. Louis as well. Georgia's dog shit, no defense. I forget. I kind of forgot they're in this tournament. Tennessee will beat Miami, Ohio, or SMU, assuming they come back here. But I also have Santa Clara. Kentucky's a mess. No confidence in Kentucky at all. $25 million roster to put up a 7 seed. But Michigan, Texas Tech, I think will be fun in Chicago. I think Texas, they're going to run out of gas though without Toppin. And they still got a lot of talent. I love that team, but it's just such a weak region. Like Michigan, I feel like is just going to power through this region. Michigan, Virginia, I think will be fun, but Yeah, I think Michigan runs through this region, but they're going to lose to Arizona State in the Final Four. I think by a significant margin because of the LJ Son injury. But they just have way too much talent to not win this region. Iowa State is interesting, but they are dog shit in March. All right, lost last year in the second round, 2 years ago in the Sweet 16, 3 years ago in the first round, and then 4 years ago in the Sweet 16. They do not do shit in the tournament. I'm not buying into them. So I wanted to, but I can't trust TG Otzelberger in March. I love him. He's loves to hit the weights, but I'm good. So I'm taking Michigan, unfortunately.
Boo.
Well, someone's got to be the realist in here.
Jay Walsh picked them, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's true.
They don't want to be fun and frisky like us, Nick.
I guess not.
So going back to what Matt was saying earlier about mostly Matt's points about St. Louis, but also this is talking to Nick Bird as well, because you guys live in a fantasy world. When you made the comparison, first of all, I will agree with you to a certain extent that Michigan has not been the same team since LJ Casey went down. And to me, that's why they're not going to win a national championship. Because as good as he has played at certain points this year, Elliot Cadeau is going to lose them a game in this tournament. I do not see it being in this region, but when they get to a Final Four and they play against a high-quality team, I do think they are going to lose. However, they have the athletes defensively and offensively to handle lesser teams. And that is what this region is, unfortunately. I really wanted them to be paired up with a good 2 or 3 seed, or even like in Arkansas. I absolutely would have picked Arkansas as an upset in the Sweet 16 over Michigan. Unfortunately, they didn't get paired up with any of those frisky, fun teams to me. And I don't see these teams being able to upset Michigan. I would love to be proven wrong, but I just don't see it. And also, one more thing, Matt, you made the comparison of St. Louis being comparable to that fun Loyola Chicago squad that made it to the Final Four. Who did that Loyola Chicago team lose to?
To an ethical Michigan team.
I'm sorry, that 2018. I don't like that 2018 team. I respect the.
I don't like them either, but it was
team.
John Beeline. It was still #ethical. You don't have a 26-year-old going to freshman bars and acting like he's beating a chair with his belt. Like, anyways.
But Matt,
anyway.
he never talks like that ever.
But counterpoint: Michigan has not been great on a neutral floor this year. Minus, 2 of the games they played in Vegas were against dog shit, woke nonsense basketball teams in Auburn and San Diego State. Yes, they did blow out Gonzaga in the championship game, just like they did with Juwan Howard before pre-COVID. People forget that Juwan Howard went on a run in the battle for Atlantis and then was going to be a 9 seed in the tournament that year. And then COVID happened. But Wake Forest, who didn't make the tournament out of the ACC, took Michigan to overtime on a neutral floor. Obviously, we know how the game against Duke went when they had to use tournament basketballs at the Capital One Arena, where the hell it's called now, in D.C. They shot 6 for 25 in that game. And then Big Ten tournament, they struggled with Ohio State. They struggled with Wisconsin. And then they looked terrible against Purdue. And personally, that's just how I view Michigan. They are not the type to respond well. I don't think they have the leadership and the maturity to respond appropriately coming back from this loss. I could be eating my words in 4 weeks and fine, but I don't think I don't believe that the issues will be absolved, because Dusty May is Dusty May, and he feels that his shit is golden regardless of what happens. They're going to try and play their 72 possession games, and they're going to lose to somebody they shouldn't. And it'll be Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Watching. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Should be fun. Jay, final question, completely random. When you get your stadium in Gary, Indiana, will that be the future host site of a Final Four?
No, we're going to Arlington Heights. Next question.
You're going to Gary, so I like it.
It's actually Hammond. But no, we're working through some things. It just takes a little longer in the state of Illinois for politics and stuff like that. That's why we're it'll be in Arlington Heights, and I'll see you there.
You will not, but the stadium right there. You just won't see me there. Nick, who did you even have winning this region, other than you have St. Louis beating Michigan?
I have no idea who I have winning this region. It's still blank on my bracket, because it's just the coughing baby. Because once St. Louis just nukes this whole thing, nothing else matters. Truly, give me Virginia. I don't know. We're moving on.
Before we move on real quick, I would just like to point out for anybody who's watching the game right now, it's halftime. Miami, Ohio has attempted 25 threes in the first half.
Yeah, they're knocking him down.
Yes, they are 10 for 25, but they have attempted 25 threes so far in this game in the first half. So just unbelievable basketball being played right now.
Correct. We'll move on. South Regional. Very funny regional. Got a lot of things going on here. Matt Merrifield, I'll start with you first. What are you seeing here in this South?
I've thrown around the term woke nonsense. You want the most woke nonsense is the fact that Houston was allowed to drop their bid hosting this regional so that way they could, and they dropped the bid less than 14 months ago. I can't remember the exact time they decided to get rid of. I don't even know how you get out of that, but they did. And now it's just Rice by themselves hosting this South Regional. So that way Houston can be the 2 seed having a home game against Florida in the Elite Eight. And that's what we're getting. It's inevitable. Rematch of the national title game from last year for a spot in the Final Four. I mean, going through it, I like Iowa over Clemson. Clemson doesn't have a center. And Bennett Sturtz is the best player on the floor. And Iowa won a tournament game last year with Drake. They have better players now. Clemson can't fucking score. Like, that's a game. This game might be 50-46, but Iowa will win this game. Moving on down, I know McNeese is frisky. Fuck Oricon. Shouldn't have won a game last year. Vanderbilt's actually a real basketball team. Mark Byington knows how to win in March, at least win a game. They got great guards. Give me Vanderbilt. I'm taking Nebraska, begrudgingly. I know Troy likes to shoot threes. Nebraska likes to allow people to shoot them, which is a terrible matchup for Nebraska. But I just feel like they've had such a good year. They have to win at least one. Like, they're going to win a game in the tournament. They won't go any further. Vanderbilt will beat them, but give me Nebraska. Moving on down, UNC doesn't do it for me without Caleb Wilson. Give me VCU. Phil Martelli Jr., his team with Bryant last year was fun. People forget they were within 3 with like 11 minutes left last year against Michigan State and Cleveland. They have a couple returning players from that team. Their best players on the team came over to VCU, and they have a better overall roster. They win a game in March. VCU upsets UNC. Illinois beats Penn. I know it's Fran McCaffery versus Brett Underwood. FranCon, whatever, but Penn's not winning this game. St. Mary's will beat A&M, and then they get their ass kicked by Houston in the second round because that's what St. Mary's does. They win one against a bad SEC team. Literally, it's the same situation as last year against Vanderbilt. They will beat A&M and buckyball because they'll play super slow and slow down A&M, and then they'll get their breaks beat off by Houston. VCU's beating Illinois. I know my own metrics say to take Illinois to at least make the Sweet 16, but they don't account for the fact that Brett Underwood always underperforms in March. I don't know what it is about the Croatians, but they refuse to play well in March and refuse to, like, I don't know, for lack of a better term, care, it feels like the energy is just not there. Whether it's giving up a 30-0 run to UConn in the Elite Eight or losing to, God, who did they even lose to last year? I can't remember. Last year, they were a really good 7. They were the best 7 seed in the country, guys. They were the best 7 seed ever. And I don't even think they made it out of the first weekend.
They lost to Kentucky.
Correct. Oh, that's right. They did lose to Kentucky. I vaguely remember that game from my Cleveland hotel. Yeah, they don't do it for me. Moving on. Vanderbilt's going to have a rematch with Florida, and Florida gets the better of them. I think their guards just absolutely laid an egg, and that's my one concern with Florida is that their guards Like, I mean, that's why they lost their games early in the year. So guards weren't playing very well. They can rely on their bigs, which will carry them a long way. I think they're a similar team to Auburn last year, where they're, once again, their bigs are just different. They just game changers, game wreckers. So I think Florida has enough in the tank to get past Vanderbilt. They'll get the better of Vanderbilt this time around, and they'll set up Houston, Florida, and I think Florida wins again. I don't love it. I think Houston very well could win that game. That's a true coin flip. But I'm going with the 1 seed because history says you should have multiple 1 seeds in your Final Four. And I think those are the two. I think Florida and Arizona are the 2 best 1 seeds in this tournament right now, especially with the way Florida's playing. And Houston isn't defending quite as well as they were a year ago. I don't know. I feel like they're in an awkward transition year, as good as they are. Kingston Flemings I just don't trust him against Boogie Fland and Xavier Lee in the backcourt of the Florida Gators. So the Gators go to the Final Four out of the South Regional. Also, they'll put an end to the woke nonsense that is Houston hosting this regional. They'll beat the lizard people.
I do want to circle back on that really quick, Matt, because you said the change was like 14 months ago. The change happened on September 23rd, 2025. That was like 2 months before the season started.
I remember
It
was really recent. Like, it was within the vicinity of them knowing they were going to be damn good.
Correct. It was 2 months before the season started, and the official reasoning on the press release from the Harris County Houston Sports Authority was to avoid potential impacts on tournament bracket placement for the University of Houston. Woke nonsense. This is an atrocity. What are we doing?
Well, their other official reasoning was that they forgot because they were supposed to host it during COVID, during the 2020 year, because of the pandemic. It got pushed back down the line. They kept kicking it back, and so the university just forgot. And then when they realized that they had to host it this year and knew that they were going to be pretty good, they just backed out of it, which is woke nonsense. But whatever, it's fine.
Jay, what are your thoughts here on this woke nonsense bracket? And I thought we lost you there, Jay.
Well, yeah, I had a hotkey for my space button, but went to video anyways. Yeah, I mean, the Florida Houston rematch in the Elite Eight, it's going to be a ton of fun. Houston, was on the brinks of beating them in the national championship and just choked it away. I think Houston gets revenge. I think Houston's going to be winning this region. Breaking it down a little bit, I got Iowa as well. Bennett Sturts is really fun to watch. I think they can get past the Clemson team, who's just not very big down low. Vanderbilt, very good. McNeese, I mean, the Southland Conference sucks, and they're not very good. So Vanderbilt's just a very good team, and they're kind of starting to pick up their groove from where they were in December. Nebraska, even though it's going to be they're going to be on pins and needles in OKC because they're going to be traveling very well. But Nebraska will pull it off, and then they'll get destroyed by Vanderbilt, unfortunately. I also like VCU in this game. I mean, North Carolina is just kind of limping in here in this tournament. They're very shorthanded. VCU's they got a lot of talent, and like Matt said, Phil Martelli Jr. is going to be a very good coach, rising coach. I think he'll get a Power 4 job here in the next couple of years. Illinois beat the brakes off Penn. St. Mary's, I love Buckyball, but it's just going to take a couple of years. I think St. Mary's rolls. Had a few good wins in the West Coast Conference, so they'll get that done. And Houston's like I said, Houston's interesting, but I just think they can get revenge. I think they're out for revenge over Florida. They've been on one of the hottest teams in the country, but I think Houston can get this done and pull it off against Florida. So, yeah, I mean, kind of like we all said, kind of like the same picks, but yeah, I mean, Nebraska Troy I think will be a very, very fun first round matchup in this region. Because like Matt said, Troy loves to shoot the three, and Nebraska doesn't do well against that. It's just going to be interesting because they haven't won a first round game ever, so they have that monkey on their back. So, but that'll be a fun game. That'll be a fun game tomorrow. So,
Jay Walsh, I'll go to you next here. Your thoughts here on the South Regional.
So going back to something that Matt said, and it was about him saying that, history says you need multiple 1 seeds in your Final Four. I'm kind of in the opposite predicament here in that I believe I've taken all 3 1 seeds to make it out so far. I will firmly say the team that's making it out of this bracket is coming from the bottom part of this region. And I will get to that in a little bit here. Going to the top half, I do think it's going to be Florida playing in that Elite Eight game. I just don't think any of the teams in this top half of the region are good enough to beat them. That Clemson-Iowa game, I think Clemson is actually going to give Iowa a little bit of a fight. I'm not a huge fan of one-man shows when it comes to the tournament. I did say, talking about BYU earlier, I really like them, but I don't think that a one-man show on offense can really get a team through this tournament. And I don't think I was as good as BYU, and I definitely don't think Bennett Sturts is nearly as good as AJ DeBon. So I think that could be a much closer game. I think Clemson could end up winning that game, but that one I realistically could see going either way. I agree that Vanderbilt is not going to lose to McNeese, even though they might be feeling the aura, but they're not gonna lose that game. As I see Nick Burt shake his head in disgust, because I know how much he loves a certain team.
Get
manager.
a job.
Yes, he's transferring to Indeed University next year. Anyway, moving on past that game. Go ahead, Nick.
But I'll mention it. You know what? I'll just do it now. This dude put out a bracket, and his bracket's already busted, and the tournament hasn't even started yet because he had NC State in the national championship game. You are a fraud. Get a job. I'm sorry I'm taking up your time, Jay Walsh.
You're good. Going back to the bracket here, Nebraska, Troy. I really, really want to take Troy here because I've said it on our show multiple times over the last several weeks. Nebraska was going to lose in that first round game. Nebraska was going to lose. I don't think they're going to lose, unfortunately. I think they're going to beat Troy. I know that this is going to be a popular upset pick simply because Nebraska has never won, and people are going to latch onto that. Nebraska is going to win this game. I don't see them going any further because I do agree with what has been said about Vanderbilt so far. I think they are a very solid to good team, and I think they'll beat Nebraska, but I do think Nebraska is going to get that first March victory under their belt. Going to the bottom half of this region, I think it could get really interesting. I'm glad that Matt brought up VCU in the Sweet 16. When this bracket first came out, I don't know if I sent it to you guys or a couple other people. My first reaction to this region was VCU is making the Sweet 16, 100%. I am looking at this bottom region now. I still believe VCU beats Illinois in that kind of 32 matchup because I think they're going to beat North Carolina, and as we've said, I don't believe in Fred McCaffrey ball. Illinois is going to win that game. I still believe VCU beats Illinois. However, if Illinois wins that game, they're going to the Final Four. It's a really weird thing to say that a team is either going to not be in the second weekend or they're going to the Final Four, but that's kind of what this Illinois team is. Like I said, if I had to put money on it, I would still say VCU's going to beat them. But I think if they win that game, they're going all the way to the Final Four. I think they're going to meet Houston in that Sweet 16 matchup. But I don't know. I think Illinois can beat Houston. I don't think VCU can beat Houston. So I think the winner of that game, Illinois, Houston, one of those two teams is getting out of this region. So that's kind of the way I look at it. If I had to bet, I would say Houston. But like I said, if Illinois beats VCU, they're making it to the Final Four this year. Florida is not getting out of this region.
Well, I'll just make it quick here. Troy is beating Nebraska. VCU's beating North Carolina. Houston and Florida are playing in the Elite Eight. And Houston's going to the Final Four because they opted out of hosting this regional and are going to have home court advantage in an Elite Eight game. Give me the Cougs, back-to-back Final Fours. And that is that. We'll go to FraudCon here. Matt, I know you had some thoughts here on the FraudCon, and then we'll wrap it up from there.
Yeah, so this is based on both seeding expectations, and part of it is going into the weekend, of course. If Houston loses at any point this weekend, any of the teams, any of the one seeds lose, they immediately go down to FraudCon 1. They're actively being frauds. Alabama, there is the darkest cloud over top of Tuscaloosa at the moment. I mean, going into the week, I did not like their matchup against the Pride, considering they don't have a center. And I talked about the length. And now I'm blanking on the kid's name who got arrested for having an egregious amount of weed in his dorm or in his apartment or wherever the hell they found it. I mean, dude, you lose your second leading scorer is kind of a problem. Fun fact, friend of the program, my father had Alabama in his Final Four, and I had to inform him yesterday that their second leading scorer and their veteran guard would be out indefinitely until the school investigates. And he has since changed his bracket, I believe, because even though his reasoning for having Bama there in the first place is talent wins, I wouldn't consider Alabama a super talented team this year, especially this year, but whatever. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. But Bama's in trouble. Do they play tomorrow? What date is that game? I think it's Friday.
Where are they at?
I have no idea. Couldn't tell you.
Okay.
I mean, open. That's what the binder's for.
That is.
It's Friday. They play at 3:15 on Friday. Perfect window for them to be upset.
Correct. They're 14.5-point favorite.
St. John's scared. I love the 14.5 points. I'll take it for free. Points are like vitamins. If Vegas is going to give them to you, take them. St. John's, I'm scared with UNI, especially because not enough people are talking about it. Everybody thinks St. John's is a lock for even the Sweet 16. They are not getting past Kansas. And if they lose to Kansas, that does not make them frauds. But I think they are in real trouble against UNI. We've seen time and time again. I believe it was earlier this year against against UConn, where they went 0 for their last 24 from the field.
Shout out the XL Center, formerly the Hartford Civic Center.
I mean,
beautiful place to play basketball.
That's concerning. And between the non-conference issues, I think UNI could give them a scare. Iowa State, they won't lose to Tennessee State because Tennessee State, I believe, is missing like their second best player. But like Jay said, Iowa State, they always lose. And that Santa Clara game is primed up for them to lose. Or even if Kentucky gets past Santa Clara, Iowa State always drops a stinker. They are they are imminent frauds. It's just a matter of time before they don't show up and lay an absolute bag. Because anything short of an Elite Eight is a failure for them, based on their draw. And yet they're going to lose. I think UConn is sneaky just because of the situation with UCLA. Even though I think Furman's really good, really solid. I'll say not really good. But that UCLA matchup, I think, is intriguing. Don't have them lower because of the fact that it's in Philly. Like it'll be a UConn home game. Mick Cronin is a baby back bitch, and Dan Hurley will win that game. Wisconsin, Greg Gard. It's Greg Gard. And every year, Wisconsin, it feels like they have a fun team. Ooh, they shoot a lot of threes. They can get guys if they get hot, guys, they can go on a run. Most teams don't stay hot for that long. Truly, you have to be able to win a game when you're not hot, and I don't think they'll do it twice. Hell, I think they're going to lose to High Point. Going on up, I've explained the Michigan situation, even besides the Billiken stuff. I think they're at risk of losing. Other than Howard, I think they're at risk of losing every single game. Like truly, even if they get past St. Louis, then they have to play. That would be Texas Tech, most likely. Even though I think they're going to end up playing Hofstra. I think Hofstra gets to the Sweet 16. If they play Tech, I'm hard pressed to take Tech. I think Tech's a better coach team. They get to the Elite Eight. I still probably lean Virginia, I think. or Iowa State if they find a way to will their way there. And then if they get to the Final Four, they right now without Case, and they are not as good as the other 1 seeds, or how I'd even argue the other 2 seeds that are scattered around this bracket. Louisville, I think, is right in the middle. I really probably shouldn't have included them, but without Mikkel Brown, they're in trouble tomorrow. And then on up the list, I think everybody at 6 and up, I think, is relatively safe, maybe at risk of falling apart. But I think all those teams up there at the top, I wouldn't be too concerned about tomorrow or Friday. Like Houston, Arizona, Gonzaga, I think are all shoo-ins to be into the Sweet 16 and even to the Elite Eight. I think we all picked Houston to make the Elite Eight. Obviously, I think Jay Walsh mentioned that Illinois is a potential team. I think Illinois is good, but every year they seem to just shit the bed. That's why they're not higher up. Kansas and Duke, I think, are fine. My only concern with Duke is that TCU game with the fatigue and the health of Ngangba. And that's pretty much it. Like Vandy's at a 7 because McNeese is frisky, but I think Vandy's safe to get to the Sweet 16, especially if they win tomorrow. Like I don't imagine them losing to Nebraska. Any questions on my fraud con rating? Anybody you think should be a little bit higher or lower before we wrap things up on this hour and 20-minute episode?
I do have 1 or 2 things. I think a lot of your placements are very accurate here. I love the placement of Illinois. I think that 5-6 range is perfect for them because, as I said, I think they are a team that I am predicting them to lose in the round of 32, which would put them higher on this list, or which would put them lower on this list. But then at the same time, I think if they win that game, they get to the Final Four. So I think 5-6 is a perfect spot for them because they're a team that I really have no idea exactly what's going to happen. The one major change that I would make here is, and I know that most, if not all 3 of you disagree with me on this, I'm not a huge believer in Gonzaga this year. I think they should be lower down on this list. I would put them kind of in that. I would put them right next to Mark Few in that 4 range. I don't think they're a very good team. I'm not a believer in the WCC overall, and I think it does not prepare them super well. Obviously, they've had some success in the tournament in recent years, but I don't think this team is that good. So I believe I had them losing fairly early. I think they were maybe a Sweet 16 team for me, if that. So that's the one major change I would make. Other than that, I think this is a pretty solid bracket, or a pretty solid ranking here.
Any other thoughts?
I mean, I got nothing. So, yeah. Wonderful fraud con from you, Matt. Maybe next week, if we do another one next week for the Sweet 16 Elite 8, maybe I'll actually remember to do it before the show, and we don't have to put it at the end. But given that, we're going to wrap it up here. What a prediction show we had. Took you through the whole tournament, reminding you why the St. Louis Billikens are making the second weekend. And, hey, it's going to get frisky. It's going to get fun. That's what the NCAA tournament is about. So thank you all so much for watching. For Matt Merrifield, for Jada Coster, for Justin Walsh, myself, Nick Burt. Make sure you click like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Nick Burt Sports Network. Content keeps pumping out. We'll be back next week. Sweet 16 Elite 8 preview. Can't wait for it. See you again soon for another episode of the Merrifield Sportsbook Show.